Welcome to another episode on how to break into tech. Today, how to break into Amazon. We have Alejandro Cava, ex-Meta and ex-Amazon, who today will be sharing very valuable tips on how to smash the interview process at Amazon. So, Alejandro, welcome and thank you so much for being with us in this journey, helping people navigating and surviving the hardcore process of interviewing. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
Before we move into the real interview, I would like to pass on the micro and let you introduce yourself because you're now a successful entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about it.
So much. I'm working on it though. So I'm Alex. I'm from Madrid. Been here most of my life. I did travel around, lived abroad in a couple countries, Syria, Poland, and most of my life I've been here working. I studied business, then I did my master's at ESIC, and then later I started working in the different tech companies. I started at Amazon, then later I moved to Meta, and that's about it. Now that I left Meta, I started my own business. I'm working building a consultancy firm, and it's been 2 years. It's quite the trip, and I'm loving it. It's tough, but I really recommend it to anyone.
Well, thank you so much. I've heard you're very successful. So moving into the interview process, today we're going to focus it on Amazon. Okay. So basically, tell us a little bit briefly about what role were you doing at Amazon? What were your day-to-day responsibilities? What was it all about it?
So at Amazon, I had two roles. First, I had the role of new account manager, which later evolved into key account manager at Marketplace. And the other role was account executive in Amazon advertising.
Okay.
So the first role was business development. Well, they were both sales roles.
Okay.
But in Marketplace, I was in charge of developing different categories. So I would work with I actually launched the category of food, beverages, beauty, healthcare, personal care. Basically bring catalog, selection, contact sellers, and onboard them on Amazon Marketplace. And after that, I would do a account management work with them to help them grow through that channel.
So client relationships,
Mainly,
mostly sales, data analytics,
so it was
etc.
hunting in terms of sales, then farming and nurturing, and a lot of data analysis, of course, to understand which were the main needs and the main demands of the different categories. So I could go to market and find those items, that selection, to bring it to Amazon.
Okay. Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun, especially in some of the categories that you can imagine.
That's good. That's good to know. From your experience, you also worked at Meta. So overall, working in the big tech. So tell us, what was the best thing about working in big tech? What did you enjoy the most?
The list is long, but if I have to choose one, is the exposure and access I had to different kinds of people working there.
Okay.
So for me, it was working with such a variety of profiles from all kinds of backgrounds and skills that to me was always a learning experience. With anyone that you would work with, you would learn something. So yes, it is a fast-paced environment where you're going to be working really, really hard. You're going to be learning so much, but you're also going to have a lot of people that are very high profile and very well prepared to be there working with you, right next to you. And it's a really, really interesting and good learning experience.
Okay. So it's basically the people and the culture.
The people, the culture. The cultures are different in each tech company. At Amazon, they do things differently than in Meta, and just like in Google, they do it differently, and Uber and Cabify, etc. Right? But at Amazon, since it was a very startup-like culture
Mindset,
yeah, and I'm more aligned with that kind of mindset. So everyone was building something from scratch, and what I really enjoyed is that I had the opportunity of building stuff, all kinds of random projects, not only like mainly outside of my core. Like, yeah, I was hired to do sales. I was hired to do selection hunting and category management. But outside of that, I would build so many internal tools that a lot of people would leverage, and you would do things outside of your scope in general.
And you would be empowered to do so, to get outside the box.
It was rewarded, and actually, I'd say expected.
Yeah, that's really good thing about the big tech. It allows you to be more creative, more innovative, get outside your core job. Thank you so much. Regarding the hiring process, which is basically why Gogotechy exists, right? To help people to find out where to go and what to do to prepare for that hiring process. So Gogotechy also prepares for Amazon. And what we know from a lot of people is that it's one of the hardest process. It's very hard to get hired, and it's a very long process as well. They test different capabilities, right? So from your experience, how is the interview process from first contact to offer?
Well, it is tough. And it is one of the, I'd say actually the toughest that I've been through. It's tough, it's long, it's complicated, and it's doable with the proper preparation.
Okay.
So in terms of stages, you would have first a call with HR where they would contact you and see, well, if you applied or you got a referral, which I highly recommend, by the way.
Yeah, referral is a very important step. Yeah, it's key in big tech.
HR will contact you and they will see, well, what your expectation is and when are you free to start and what do you like the role. Pretty standard HR.
Non-technical HR.
Not technical, just HR. And generally, you pass that unless you really mess up. Generally, that's not an issue. The complication comes with the second loop. It's a phone loop, and it's generally with someone from the team.
Okay.
So you will have already an interview that is 45 minutes generally, where they will cover your motivation for the role, your motivation for the company, and you will get into behavioral questions.
Okay.
These behavioral questions will be aligned with the leadership principles of Amazon. So depending on which leadership principle that interviewer has to
depending on the role that you're applying,
and depending on that, because sometimes that interview with the team, sometimes you have a second one before the in-house loop, but I'll get to that later. So in this interview, you will have maybe 5 or from 3 to 5, depending on how deep you go, questions, behavioral questions, where you need to explain examples, specific examples of your professional and personal career.
Yeah.
And after that, depending on the role, you could get a market sizing question. It's not commonplace, but sometimes you do.
Yeah, a little bit like consultancy firms do.
Yes. Yeah, like how many ping pong balls do fit in a plane?
Yeah, the brain teasers and then the GCA to test logical skills.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility that you can get. But it's not necessarily. Like what's for sure is that they're going to test your motivation and they're going to ask you for behavioral questions regarding those leadership principles. And after that, if you pass that, you'll get either another phone interview with maybe a manager, or you go straight into the in-house loop. So the in-house loop, I mean, the call with the manager is going to be pretty much the same, but with someone with a higher seniority. And then the in-house loop, that's when they call you into the office and you have a series of generally 5 interviews, one after the other. And that's the toughest because there's no time to rest between them.
Yeah. In Google, it works the same. It's actually exhausting. And
it's exhausting.
Between interviews, there is always someone also testing your probably social skills or how you manage yourself, how polite you are. And you never know if there's someone offering you a coffee because it's an actual test or they're actually offering you a coffee. So yeah, those 5-6 hours are very stressful.
They're really, really stressful. And generally, I'd say that if you did good, you will feel that you did not. It's tough to actually differentiate if you did a good job there. If you feel like you aced it, there's a really high chance that you didn't.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite feeling, because it is exhausting and you need to think a lot about all the answers that you give.
And they challenge you a lot. Even though you give an answer, they go back to answer, like they expect you to give another example about the same question.
Exactly. So this is what they call the probing questions. And if they ask you something specific, like like give me an example of something that you did outside of your scope, and you start telling your story, but then they're not really convinced about what you're saying, it's either they pass to a different question or they probe and they ask so many questions to understand a little bit more. And
the fact deep.
They do go deep, and it doesn't mean that you're doing wrong. It could mean so many things.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling a story that has content, but like the interviewer sees that there's more into it that could actually help to the interview. So generally, probing questions should not be seen as an aggression. Quite the opposite. If they're asking questions, it's because there's material there for...
And also, depending on the role, they're also testing different qualities. So in the same story, in the same example that you're sharing, they want to test, imagine, not only leadership skills, and you have been communicating that example just focusing on leadership skills, but then they want to see if you actually, if you're a person that is used to work under pressure. So they, they go deep into the questions. So yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So was anything unexpected about it, or everything was unexpected?
I'd say that because of the level of preparation I had, pretty much everything was expected, except when, and this happens to me in all interview processes, when they ask me the personal questions, I do get personal, and that's the biggest mistake you can ever make, because I usually, like, I forget to prepare the most basic stuff. Like, you go
like, tell me about your weaknesses, which is something that they will never ask.
They will never ask, and you're like, these new processes, they're not going to do it, but sometimes they do, and you go really, really deep into preparing the whole structure, the examples,
the STAR
method, and then you forget about the easiest questions, and that's what can get you catch you by surprise, and that's what happened to me. Also, there was a surprise that I had. Depending on the role, you will get during the in-house loop specific exercises, like not only technical but also sales. For instance, I had
like a role play.
Yeah, and the role play, it can be surprising or not, depending on how much. Well, if you have high sales skills, you might be used to it.
They can choose to do the objection handling, focus on cost, focus on not interested in the product.
That's right. There's so many things that you cannot prepare for, and what really matters is that like, you do have a structure, a clear structure when answering the questions, and that's it. So you don't need to be an expert in material costs. It's like, if they ask you about something that you actually don't know, well, you need to know how to reply when you don't have that answer. Yeah, no,
they're also testing how spontaneous you can be, which is...
they push you against the ropes.
Which is fundamental in a sales role. Okay, so back then, how did you prepare? Where did you go to prepare yourself?
So in my case, I was referred. So
referral, by the way, means something that is essential in big tech, which means that they receive so many applications a day that it's physically impossible that they go through all the applications. So basically, to guess the fast track is for someone to refer you from inside, and employers also get incentivized by referring someone from the outside. So that's one of the biggest tips that we can give you is if you want to get into big tech, make sure that you find someone inside your network that from the inside can refer you.
And never apply before. Because if you apply and someone tries to refer you, they're not going to be able to do it. And so always try to get referred. Don't apply by yourself. You like one specific position, you try to find someone in your network that can refer you. Send the link, the CV, and they'll do it. So in my case, I was referred. So I did have some understanding of what the process was going to be. I pretty much knew what I just said today. But the way I prepared was, okay, with this structure, this is only the theory, but now I need to come up with the examples myself. So for me, the easiest way to do it was, well, first of all, it's the STAR method. I think it's already a given. It was situation, task, action, and result, right?
Actually, big tech, in this case, I'm talking from the Amazon perspective and the Google perspective, they do not only recommend to use the STAR method, but it's practically mandatory. So you can go into the course's website and, get the course on how to structure your answers within the STAR method, because it's actually something fundamental.
I know that now, or at least it happened to me and some other people that told me that now, for new candidates, they get an informative email where they actually state that you prepare your examples within the STAR framework. However, back then, we didn't have any clues. It was just like, okay, you applied, you're going to have these interviews, and that's it. But I did prepare all my examples with the STAR method. And the way I did it was, Amazon, you're always going to have an interviewer checking at least 2 leadership principles in that interview. They will check others secondarily, but 2 primary ones. And the fact that they are focused on bias for action doesn't mean that if they see something that is bad in earned trust, they will not note it down, right? So what I did was I took all the leadership principles, and within a matrix on Excel, I just go, okay, what was the situation, what was the task, the action, and the result? And I came up with at least 3 of them.
Yeah. For each one of the qualities and values,
However, for my second loop, and I've been preparing a lot of people for interviews at Amazon, friends, family, ex-girlfriends. And what I recommend is not necessarily having 3 different examples for each leadership principle, but have maybe 6 that are 6 really good stories that you can shape depending on the question that you get.
Yeah.
So you need to be smart enough in the interview to understand which leadership principle they're asking you about, and then get a really good and solid example that you have and adapt it to it. So if they ask you about, let's say, something that you did with initiative, which is going to be testing bias for action, or something that you didn't do. Actually, this is a good example. So with bias for action, they can ask you to tell a story of something that you did without your boss knowing, and also something that you did outside of your scope. You need to, it's not that they're trying to see if you did something behind your boss's back. What they're trying to test is your autonomy.
Yeah.
To understand how your team can rely on you without controlling having visibility of what you do. So it's easy to fall into the trap of saying something that was actually not good, and then that you apologize to your boss, which is totally the opposite of what they're looking for in the question. What they're looking for is that you had initiative about a project specifically, and that you went for it because you had a controlled risk, and you evaluated what was going to happen, and you have your narrative of why you did it, but not because it was a bad thing, but because you had that like
autonomy, yeah.
exactly. So the idea is, if it's easier for you to have a whole matrix of 3 examples for each, and then you just adapt the narrative and you learn it by heart, which is the second part. I'll get to that now. Go ahead. Otherwise, get 5 or 6 examples and learn to adapt them.
Actually, what we recommend at Gogotechy, part of the STAR method course, is that we teach our students to create a story bank, which is basically exactly what you're saying. So we have the hashtags with the qualities, and then a couple of examples. I always recommend to have at least from 10 to 15 examples. Each one of them represents certain qualities. So whenever they're testing leadership, you go in your mind to your story bank, you get the example, and then you know basically how to do it through the STAR method. And one example can mean like from 3 to 5 qualities. So that's something that for us, we train people because that's, the fundamental part of the interview. So absolutely agree.
That makes sense. And what I struggled the most was learning the whole narrative. So there's so many details that you need to give during the interview.
Yeah, they expect a lot of data.
Exactly. So what I had to do was I wrote down every single thing, and then I practiced in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
So many times.
Yeah.
So many times. And I think that's the only way to do it. I always forgot details otherwise.
Yeah.
So if you prepare that way, you have it written down, you're practicing against the mirror.
And you're raising a really good point, because people think that with a couple of hours of preparation, they're fine. But the truth is that when you go into that room and imagine the hiring manager comes in, I mean, your brain stops functioning for a little bit.
Real easy.
Exactly. You can go blank. So the only thing that can save you in that moment is not going to be impro, it's going to be preparation.
It's preparation.
And there's a lot of hours. Another thing regarding preparation is that what I realize training students is that, they prepare a lot for their role specifically, but they forget something very important, which is, learning about the industry, the company, the competitors. So we have a course that is called Attitude Matters as part of the NAILED methodology, because it's the only way to show commitment to their role. So basically, one question that I used to do at TikTok is, who is TikTok's CEO? And 80% of the people wouldn't know. So basically, for me, it's a no-go, because attitude means that you have studied not only the role that you're applying for, but the company, the competitors, the industry. Is the industry racing? What is happening? What are the competitors' products that can put Amazon in danger? All these things. So how important is that for you when you're preparing for interviews?
That's a really good point. Well, to show the example, I interviewed so many people, and many times I wouldn't have that same question, but when I asked about their motivation for why Amazon, the answer would work for most of tech companies.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, that was a no-go from the beginning, or at least you would start in -10, and then you would need to work a lot to recover from that. But you need to adapt all your answers to that specific company, that specific role. So you need to learn, obviously, about the company. You don't need to learn the whole story, but have a couple things learned, like the CEO, their structure. I think that's a basic.
That's super basic, but you would be surprised how many people don't go through that process. But I think this is raising a really good point. 90% of the people that we interview end up saying things that could fit, as you said, in any tech company. So they speak about, I want to be in a place where innovation exists, and I love sales. But they don't go deep into what's your commitment towards the role, towards the company, what's your vision towards the company. So that's...
I don't remember hiring anyone that missed that question.
Yeah. For me, it's a no-go, for sure.
Like it's, if you don't have a very ad hoc adapted answer to that, that generally goes downhill after that. So it means that you're not prepared for the rest of the questions that are going to come.
Or that you're not motivated enough and you don't hire people with a lack of motivation. So in any case, whatever the reason is, it's a no-go. Okay, so moving into the next part of where to prepare. Okay, so I have a question for you. We have at Gogotechy a huge belief that just a few universities give you, the information or the guidelines in a very general way on how to prepare for the workforce, right? So in that case, it's one of the reasons why Gogotechy exists. But preparing for the hardcore process of interviewing, looking back, where do you think candidates should go? Like, where are the resources to actually know the deep, hardcore part of what are going to be Amazon questions?
Right now, or looking back when I was interviewing?
Now Gogotechy exists.
It's clearly Gogotechy right now.
So it's basically...
Back in the day, it's mainly your network. There were some, you had a Glassdoor, but everything was super outdated there.
And super generic.
And very generic. It didn't help out. So I did a lot of deep research on the internet. I never found any useful source. And my university obviously was not able to prepare me. And the only source of information was my network, people that already worked at Amazon and could guide me through the hiring process. And that's about it. I mean, it was not available. It was not openly available.
For me, everything this exists, Gogotechy exists because I felt very lonely in the process of applying to Google. So basically, I ended up asking a lot of favors because I didn't have the enough network to actually ask people. And a few people were kind enough to send me a few examples of questions that I could get. And that process, I felt just, there is a lot of information missing. It doesn't happen that much in consultancy or for banking. I think there's a lot outside, but in terms of tech, it's very unexpected and very hard to find.
Yeah, it is.
Moving back into you as a hiring manager in the way of how you hire, okay? So have you, when interviewing, what qualities or skills are, fundamental for you?
Okay. So I did hire back at Amazon. I interviewed like 70, 80 people while I was there. And for me, the qualities were clearly the leadership principles and how to judge them, right?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, like I was mainly in charge of the sales pitch and also bias for action and insist on the high standards and ownership. So generally for Amazon, bias for action, ownership, and attention to detail was also important. But and above everything, earn trust. Like the examples I was always looking for was, is this person not only going to be doing the core job and is going to be happy doing it, because that's the baseline.
Yeah,
that's a given. For you to grow within Amazon, you need to go beyond the call of duty, and that's actually literally one of the questions. Like, tell me an example where you went above and beyond the call of duty.
Exactly. And this is a very interesting point because people think that to get into big tech, they have to have like a huge knowledge about product or on the technical side. But at the end of the day, you're hiring someone with enough personality to go above and beyond. And that's exactly what you're testing. So it's not only about knowledge, it's about the essence.
That's right. And how adaptable you are and your capability to learn.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that is autonomous, smart, and is curious and is hungry, that person doesn't need to be an expert in the product.
Yeah.
Like, of course, there's some positions where you do need to know about the product. Like if you are getting hired into logistics, well, you need to know about logistics.
Engineer. Yeah, obviously you need to know.
But about the product itself, like if you start in sales and you're good in sales, you should be able to sell anything. You don't need to know specifically the whole business model. For Amazon, for Marketplace, you needed to study it because there was going to be a sales pitch. So obviously you need to know the basics. You don't know it, you need to know by heart the commission that you pay in each vertical, but you do need to know what the model is and how you charge different sellers, etc. So you can sell it on the call. But knowing about the product, it's always going to help you, but it's not absolutely critical.
Yeah. It's the process or like the qualities that Amazon is looking for. Are they similar to what Meta is looking for?
Well, the leadership principles are very different. They share some similarities, but they're not looking exactly for the same. I'd say that Amazon is looking more for, I'd say, builder entrepreneurial skills, more data-driven people. Yeah. Very, very data-driven.
More analytical.
More into...
Depending on the role, though.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of soft skills, personality.
The personalities is, let's say, I don't want to say tougher, but it kind of is. In Amazon, it's more straight to the point, no bullshit.
In any case, in terms of interview process, I think there is some similarities between the people.
Well, there's case studies, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Both of them. I mean, yes, you always need to prepare. If you are preparing a loop for Amazon, you can do Meta, no problem. It's the same logic, but in Meta, you have their principles, and then you have to adapt the same star method and their principles. And later, what you have in similar is also kind of sales exercises, depending on the role, but also technical exercises.
Yeah.
From what I had for Marketplace, I did an exercise of analyzing a catalog, prices, promotions, sellout, demand, etc. And then I would need to make come up with a strategy to sell more with that information that I had. And then at Meta, I had an exercise where I was given a marketing brief, and then I had to choose which advertising products I was going to use and then present it.
Too. Yeah. Okay, so tell me, this is, I'm going to raise a point. What are the common mistakes for people while interviewing?
Well, first of all, I think it's obvious and it's been mentioned quite a lot, but it's not enough preparation. That's the first killer in an interview. It's so easy to go adrift and get lost in the details of examples that you have not prepared. It's so easy because you're nervous and you don't remember all the details, and you're trying to adapt to a person that is waiting for you in front of you, very serious, waiting for your answer. So preparation is key. After that, there are some other small mistakes that I would always avoid. First of all questions that I mentioned before, all personal questions are not actually personal, and they should also be prepared deeply.
Yeah.
So from motivation to what do you like to do in your free time, that's a trick question.
Yeah.
And that needs to be prepared.
Yeah.
Also, not asking questions at the end of the interview.
That's something that, I have another course on that. It's not only not asking questions, is preparing what questions are you going to ask, because there is nothing worse than interviewing someone that the first question that they ask you is, how much am I going to get paid?
No. Never.
Or what are Google's perks? All this is just...
That's an HR conversation, first of all. And that's not something that you should raise in a tech loop.
You should also be careful while raising all these questions before knowing if they're going to hire you or not. So I would, make sure that I have the offer first to analyze my power of negotiation.
Depending on the seniority, obviously, if you're going for a really senior role, you need to have this conversation in the beginning in the HR call.
No, of course.
But for junior positions, you could ask it in the HR call. But for sure, don't ask it with the people from the team.
No, 100%. And I'm also talking about when salary, perks, but also when someone asks, as first question, what's the flexibility, or what's the return to office policy, all these things. I mean, you're entitled to ask yourself those questions because it affects your personal life, of course, but without preparation, coming up with those questions, I mean, you're assuring the no-go 100%.
No.
Okay, so moving into the tips side. For CV, give me one tip, concise, fast.
1 page.
1 page, please.
No, 1 page, that's for sure. A lot of data points. Those are the two big ones. Like, don't go too crazy with the descriptions. Make it concise. Use as many data points as you can with the impact of what you did.
What you achieved, not what you did.
Exactly what you achieved. Like, why is it relevant? Why is it important?
Absolutely. And one tip for interviews: be prepared.
Be prepared would be the obvious one. But if I had to go further from being prepared, just take it as a role play.
Yeah. A process of learning. Also, I tell my students, like, try to have fun. It's a process where whether you get hired or not, it's a great way of learning. It's part of
and learning also about yourself.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, what are your actual skills and value yourself.
Exactly. Okay, so give me, for our audience, give me 2 questions that are yes or yes going to be in Amazon interview process.
All right. So the one I mentioned before, I repeat that. It's tell me about a time where you went above and beyond the call of duty. That's literally the one that they're going to ask you. Also, that is related to tell me something that you did outside of your scope of work. Tell me something you didn't do that you did without your boss knowing.
I have another one here. Give me an example of a time you used customer feedback
that's a good one.
to drive improvement or innovation. What was the situation and what action did you take? This is a very common one.
Really
also applied for Google.
That happens.
Talking about a little bit of a life inside Amazon, what surprised you the most about working there?
The intensity of work driven by the motivation of people. It was like so frenetic. It was everyone was working so much, so many hours, but yes, it was tough. But we were all building something. So everyone was like doing something different. We were also we were only 300 people, I think, when I joined Amazon.
Now it's like about 2,000 in Madrid.
So
it's insane.
Yeah, exactly. So they've come a long way. So what surprised me was, again, the people and the motivation that they had, but also the freedom that we had to do stuff. As in, I would have thought that Amazon had more solid processes, but everything was still to be built.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of processes with reporting and SOPs and everything. There was a lot, but then every day a new challenge would arise that would require to build something new.
Yeah.
New process, new SOPs, new queries, new data sets. And it surprised me that I thought that I would find everything to be already done, but there was always something new.
Yeah, no, it was a very startup culture back then. Good. My last question. Okay, so I would like you to send the audience a tip, not an interview process that we have talked a lot about that, but in terms of job searching. What's the most important thing? Whether you're an early graduate or a young professional and you're looking into big tech or the tech ecosystem, what advice would you give them in terms of job search?
Build a network.
Yeah.
build a network. It's by far the most important thing to start as early as possible.
Yeah.
To secure a good job in the company that you want. And it takes time, takes a lot of effort. And obviously, to some of you, it will come naturally. Some others will need to
Work
kind
on
of
that.
plan.
Yeah. And assist to events and write
Exactly.
to HR. Yeah.
And talk to a lot of
100%.
people, send a lot of messages,
And
a lot
not
of
being
people.
afraid of asking for favors as well, because what I tell my students is that all of us here with a career in big tech, we have been in that place where, you know, we had to ask for favors. And now, obviously, we want to help people back. So I tell them, don't be afraid to ask for favors. Not everybody's going to answer. Not everybody's going to do it, but you're going to get there.
Yeah, you'll be surprised of how many people are
Willing.
happy to meet for a coffee, for a beer, and talk, and then help you out.
Yeah, they were there as well, you know, back 10 years ago.
So for me, network.
Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And it was very valuable. Super, super thanks. So give me 5.
Thank you.
Thanks.